Even if you rent for 50 years, you don't own even a single frame of that house. My name is Caroline Wanjeri, Kihara, Head of Morgage at KCB. Okay, how do you identify the right home? There are many things. One, your budget will come in very handy because not all of us can afford to live in Karen, in Kileleshwa. So I normally say it's easier to start small. So start small where your budget can fit. Once you fit into your budget, start thinking of location, and that should relate to the stage of life you are in. You know, are your children? Do you have children? Are you a young family? Are there schools nearby? Are there hospitals nearby? What is the access to your place of work? All those factors will come into place. But most importantly is that you may be in an environment where you love the schools, you love the transport, but you can't afford. So the budget is very, very critical. So once you look at your budget, that again, you need to look at your savings. Many people unfortunately think of getting a home but don't think of a savings plan. So yes, they have this nice dream and this nice idea of a home that they'd want, but they never sit down and ask themselves, how much have I saved? Because even if you were to go to a bank, there are very few banks that will finance you 100%. And even if they do, there are other costs associated with getting a house. So have a savings plan and work on a budget so that it's a journey. It's not something that you wake up and say, today I'm going to have a house. It's a nice thing to have, but it requires planning. The more you save, the better, because then you reduce your borrowing. Your monthly repayment will be determined by the interest rate, but the more equity you put in, the more money you put in as your own savings, then the less you borrow and the less you pay, and the faster that you finish paying the mortgage. So the more you save, the easier it is for you. So I would not say that there are people who are able to save 10%, there are some that are able to save 20%, there are some who will be able to save 50%, but save, my advice normally is save as much as you can. Yes. It's important to own your home eventually, whichever way you go. If you're able to buy it cash, good. If you're lucky and you have that gold, or I see a lot of spot pesa and all that, and you learn that good, it's good. But we know the percentage that would get that luck are very few. So my advice would be, just know shelter is basic. It's just like food. When you, at the end of the day, after you finish your errands, wherever you will be, you need to go and be under a shelter. It's a basic need. Yeah. So you must plan for it. It's almost inevitable. Whether you choose to buy and rent, it will be guided by your income. But remember, I always say this, even if you rent for 50 years, you don't own even a single frame in that house. Yeah, so it might look hard going through a home loan, but it's better because as the years go by, the amount that you have paid in that home loan is what becomes your own equity. Anything can happen when you have your home and it's debt-free. If your employer is to tell you go home, you know at least where you're going. If you don't have a home and your employer tells you go home, where will you go? The landlord will not listen. The landlord is only your friend because they receive that rent. So it's a decision. It's a decision that you have to make very early, and just know that it's a basic need. The same way we have to plan for what we're going to eat, we must plan for where we're going to live and where our children are going to live. Buying a house off plan has got its advantages and its disadvantages. Unfortunately, in the country currently, we have anybody who has got some lump sum money calling themselves a developer. So you've got to be very, very careful. So when we think about off plan, my first caution is normally buyer beware. A lot of Kenyans have been conned because you're buying something that you have not seen. And why many developers will opt to go off plan is because they would want to use the buyer's money to build. So there is a risk definitely because you are buying something that you have not seen. You've got to be very, very careful. Do the due diligence. There's a saving because most off-plan developers will give a cheaper price. But cheap in the long run can be expensive. And given that a home is your biggest investment, I don't think you want to start with a gamble.